My name is Robert Scott. I'm a professional photographer from Calgary. I fell into photography by accident in about 2006, 2007. I had just gotten back from Australia. I was one of the coaches for Team Canada for the Junior Taekwondo Championships over in Melbourne. When I came back, I had no photos of any of my students or anything, so I said, well, I better get on this and start photographing my own Taekwondo club because I have no memories whatsoever. So my sister gave me her little tiny point and shoot camera, and one day I was really annoyed with some of the Taekwondo politics that was going on, and I jumped on my Honda CBR 1000, which was the bike was by far way too powerful for me. Put the little point and shoot camera on my hip and hit the road. And I got out of the city just to clear my head, and thunderstorm rolled in, and I had to pull over and hid underneath this big tree. And through the forest, I saw the outline of this concrete bunker-looking building, and I said, "Oh, sweet! I'll just go in there." So went in there, and I hung out there for about half an hour, waiting for the thunderstorm to roll by. And I had my little point shoot camera, and I just was snapping some pictures, and I thought it was really cool. And I figured out afterwards that it was the jail, the old jail where Bankhead, the ghost town of Bankhead now is. So jumped on my motorcycle, went back home, and right at that time, it was about 2006, 2007, I do believe, I had just gotten Facebook. And I posted these photos to Facebook, and there was some feedback. I got a little blue like, and I got a couple comments. It made me feel really good. I was like, wow, I felt awesome. I'm now engaging with people. I thought, well, I think I'm gonna go someplace next weekend. And so I told my bar buddies that I'm not gonna go hang out and go pick up chicks. I'm gonna jump on my motorcycle, I'm gonna head off someplace. I Googled some of the ghost towns, and I said, hey, well, let's go to this spot. So jumped on the bike next weekend, headed off down the secondary highway. When I got back later that night, exhausted, I had this huge sense of accomplishment and this incredible adventure, and a camera full of these incredible pictures of this day that I spent by myself on the back roads. It was an amazing experience. And now, 15 years later, and about, $20,000 worth of gear later too, now I never thought I'd be doing this. And yeah, it's been quite a journey. It has gotten me out of the bars. It has gotten me around the world. It has got me married now with a kid. And it's just been amazing ever since I picked up a camera. The Hickmore house was brought to my attention by a good friend of mine in Calgary, and he said that I should go out and visit it. So I took the opportunity and went out and saw it. The house is amazing. It's the picture-perfect, quintessential abandoned Alberta house perched up on a hill with dramatic prairie skies and wheatgrass in front of it, with sagebrush in front of the house as well. The house itself was a boarding house in Wintertime, Alberta, and it was the place where pioneers would first come and stay there while their homestead was being built on the prairies. So it was like a makeshift little hotel. Then once Wintertime started to grow, as of 1905, the house was replaced by a big, massive wooden hotel. The Hickmore house was moved to its current location, and it was lived in by William Hickmore. I had contacted the current landowner right now, and he had given me permission to go on the house and go on the property and shoot the house. He also gave me Ron's phone number.
Well, I'm Ronald Thorson. My age is 87, and I feel good. I lived here from 1934 until 1962. Cold. My dad stoking up the coal fire, the pot-bellied stove, which sat right over there. And that's my earliest memories. I can remember us on a real cold day. We'd start out in the morning. We didn't do chores when we were young because by the time we got ready for school and had to be there at 9. So we'd usually on a cold day, we'd leave here about 8:30. I can remember lots of times my sister walking backwards with her to keep her face warm. Of course, Harold, my brother, he was the oldest. He had to be at school and stoke the fire, get it ready for everybody. He got paid $5 a month for that, which was
pretty good.
Quite a bit of money in those days. Yeah, and then of course the school day was, there was only 2 or 3 of us maybe in each grade. And the walk back home, and that's when the chores had to be done. And my brother and I would have to clean the barn, put out the bedding, and if there was cows milking, we would have to do that too. But it was just something that we expected to do. Minnie, our antelope, I caught him up in what we call the school section. Spotted him laying in the grass. So I very gently got off the horse and snuck up on him and grabbed him. I brought him home. He became our favorite pet. Or she, I should say, it was a female. Yeah, it was, you would go to jail for something like that now, probably.
Yeah.
No, not quite that bad, but yeah, it was a good relationship. We all loved the antelope. He got to be able to stay in the shed, I think it was, overnight. We let him sleep in there. But the sad part was when fall came, she left. But she always came back. We always knew it was her because she was always coming back close.
So after the Hickmores had left, the Redknaps had moved in. And Mrs. Redknap had passed away. It was during the winter at that time, and the ground hadn't thawed, so she had to stay in the house until they could thaw the ground.
The Mrs. Redknap died in 1927. And they brought her back to the house here. And they put her in the bedroom, that bedroom there. And she laid there for 3 days. And then they took her into Winifred and buried her.
And apparently the Hickmore house is still haunted by Mrs. Redknap now. That's the rumor anyways.
Marilyn and I got married and we moved in the house here. Or she moved in. I'd already been here. But my wife moved in with me, and the brick, the chimney was, the mortar in it was getting a little crumbly, and a brick every once in a while would fall off the chimney and go thump, 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 and hit the ground. And I told Marilyn she was pretty nervous anyway, staying out here. But anyway, I told her it was Mrs. Redknap just walking around upstairs. That didn't help any. And, but that was the story of Mrs. Redknap.
here's the scary thing here, or here's the strange thing, is a lot of people seem to think that people who grew up in these old abandoned houses way back in the day are gruff and grumpy and, really intimidating. Ron was not that at all. He was very soft-spoken and kind and gentle and so open to tell us everything about his family and his history. In fact, he said it with pride and with tears in his eyes, and it was amazing.
I have a lot of good memories here. My mother was great for all of us kids, and she made a real home for us here all the time that we were here. The radio sat here, and it was the batteries would maybe go dead, and us kids would all lay on our bellies here trying to listen to it because the sound would get so low that we wouldn't be able to hear it. But then Dad would eventually take it to the old battery in and get a new one.
How would you describe the feeling of kind of sitting in a place where so long ago you were, youthful and, like you said, laying on the floor?
Sad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's really no reason to be sad, but it just makes you sad. Just thinking of all the times we had, Mom and Dad, and Shirley and Harold, and they're both gone.
The flagship portrait of Ron Thorson was special because I don't consider myself a portrait photographer. I kind of know what I want, but I kind of wing it as I go. So Ron's portrait was fairly simple because it was a one light setup, and the light was incredible. And I shot at high noon, so I just needed a powerful flash angled at a specific height, and the rest was just snappity snap snap. And it was just a matter of getting the exposure right and not blowing out the highlights on his face, and he was just standing there proud, and that's what he was. He was proud. And I didn't have to guide him at all. I didn't have to fake anything. I didn't have to say, look off into the distance and think about days in the yonder years. He just did that because that was his mantra when he was there at the property. And in fact, Ron visits that place, I think, almost weekly. When I take a look at the portrait of Ron, it says to me, pride, plain and simple. Out of all the people I think I've photographed and met so far, I think Ron is the most proud of this house and this property and his family and his memories. And you can tell when he walks around that he knows that I'm there asking him questions, but it's like he's speaking to ghosts. Like that's exactly what I see when I see the photo, is that he's there with me, but he's not. When people take a look at the photo, I hope that they examine the photo the same way that Ron would examine something inside the house. I really hope that they look at it for its story, not for its technical issues. The thing about a good photograph is that it should resonate with you. You shouldn't be picking it apart technically. If you start picking it apart technically, then the photographer's missed what exactly is it they're trying to say. What advice or what would you tell people who are driving down a road when they were to look at an old house like this? What would you say, knowing that what you know about living in a place like this?
Well, just try and think of all the good times the people had that were living there and not the hard times. There was a lot of hard times in those early days. And respect the property where it is. The house that you see is a home, was a home for a lot of years.
This first experience in this series, specifically with Ron, is a great way to set the tone of how pursuing this project and meeting all of these landowners and farmers and family members have really impacted me and has really changed me as an individual. I never thought I would be this emotionally attached, more so to these houses than I already am. But to be confronted by these people and them telling me their intimate stories have really brought the house back to life. The house is dead and it's dying and it's going to be torn down or burned down. But for me, these stories are really breathing the life back into the house. It's important to preserve our history of the prairie provinces such as Alberta and Saskatchewan and Manitoba, because this history isn't being told, not on the grand scale that I feel that it should be. You can find some of these stories in the history books, but they are buried in Grandma and Grandpa's trunk in the basement someplace. So I'm hoping to get Grandma and Grandpa's story on video for generations to come, because as soon as they're gone, the stories are gone.